So I've just read an article talking about the top 5 deathbed regrets. I do want to give a shout out to Gary V. Gary V years ago highlighted for me the importance of talking to people in their 80s and 90s and really getting a feel for what they regret, right? As you get closer to the end, you get a little bit more honest, a little bit more direct. You get that less filter. So again, I want to shout out Gary V. I've actually done that a lot when we take our trips. I make it a point to seek out individuals in their 80s and 90s, have dinner, have lunch with them, and just have conversations. It is some eye-opening stuff. But let's get into the article on the top 5 deathbed regrets. You ready?
I am.
Number 1. This is probably the one I hear the most, but here we go. I didn't spend enough time with the people I love.
Mm, absolutely. That's one I kind of have a motto, a tagline that I put at the end of all my presentations that really is like what I think about is most important in life. And that's one of the main ones. It's loving people. And how do we love people well? We spend time with them, right? It's hard to have relationships with people without spending time with them. And we're in such a world that distracts us for our time to tell us everything else is worth our time. And sometimes we say we're doing it and we mean that well that we're doing it to be with the people we love, to help the people we love, to create financial freedom with the people we love, to create security with the people we love. But oftentimes, I think we end up selling some of that time, for in the future. If I just get here, then I can spend more time with them. We talked about last week. If I just made a little more, then I can afford the vacation, then I can buy the beach house or whatever it is. And we keep putting off those things. And it's kind of like that song, Cats in the Cradle and the Silver Spoon, right? When are you coming home, Dad? When are you going to play fetch with me? The reason I don't travel, with my kids when they have an event is like, I want them to know that there's nothing more important to me than them and spending time with them and loving on them. And so I think that's the greatest one for me too.
Yeah, and it's really funny. This is actually a conversation I have a lot, right? As you get out, you try to help the community. You put on this show like we do. I get a lot of I'll call them entrepreneurs that come up to me and they always tell me, I'm doing it for the family. I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing. And then I look at their schedule and their family is nowhere to be involved. It's like,
Yeah.
where are they? Right?
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes it takes an outside force to kind of highlight. And again, you don't have to be there always. But again, if you're saying it's the most important thing, and I look at your schedule and they're nowhere,
Right.
I question your
Yes.
words, right?
And that's why so many people end up because they're not really creating their life by design, right? They're chasing the next thing. They're doing all the things and they think, "Oh, if I just have a little more, it'll make me a better provider or whatever." I think sometimes we're fooling ourselves as to what we say is important. And so, one of the first things that I do, like when I have coaching students that going through a program, like take me through how to create this wealth. I don't start with the money. I start with what's the why. And I make them fill and time block their calendar with all the non financial stuff that's most important to them, right? Relationships, health, and that could be spiritual health, physical health, relational health, etc. Purpose, like things that they're passionate about and have fun doing, and I make them put that stuff on the calendar first, Michael, because if you put it there first, then you can say every business venture that I do, every speaking engagement, every investment, I'm buying them with a purpose to serve what's important to me, not to put my whole life around the pursuit of money and then find spots for those important things when I have time, because it never happens. And I kind of say, if it's important to you, it better be on your calendar, right? Some people say, how we can tell what's important to you? Do you know how advertisers send you stuff, Michael? They look at your purchases from your credit cards, from the grocery store. There's data that has all that stuff. So it's like your time and your money prove what's really important to you. So create your life by design. Focus on the
I,
people you love.
Life by design. You brought this to the channel years ago. It's still the right way to go. And again, folks, if you're doing it for the family and your loved ones, I'm going to ask you, show me your schedule.
Yeah.
Show me your schedule. All right, number 2. I get this a lot too when I talk to 80 and 90-year-olds, especially the last decade of their kind of working years. It's I worked too much and missed out on life.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Goes back to the life by design, right? We can't miss out on life if we create our work to serve the life we want to get to live. It's that life and air principle that I've talked about so many times because I missed out too. I thought I was doing it for the right reasons. I was doing it for the right reasons in my heart, but yet I just thought I got to go all in all the time. And I made that so laser focused for me to be home with my kids that I missed out on a lot of opportunity to enjoy them and create a lot more moments of joy. It was like hustle, 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 a little fun here and there, but not really a lot of fun for me over that decade of wealth building. And it's one of the things you and I've both said, like, if we could have done it a little differently, we probably would have had more opportunities just to be and to have fun and to find the things that bring us joy and to make those just important to us as all the other things. And I think as parents, especially because we're both parents and we wanted to create that life for our children, we want the best for them. But we don't take a lot of time to think about ourselves in that process. Like, are we fulfilled? Are we making opportunities for our mental, spiritual, emotional health, physical health, and well-being so that we can show up fully present for our family, be full of joy in this process, as hard as certain days might be, and not just at work. Because if you work yourself to the bone, you cannot be filled with joy because you don't give yourself enough time and space to really enjoy the simple things in life, which is why we all work so hard to begin with, to have the freedom to enjoy the simple things in life. But we can miss it if we're not really, really careful in how we plan our day and how we plan our life.
Yeah. The one that hits me a lot here, and I see this a lot with entrepreneurs, but also the 80 and 90-year-olds that I'm lucky enough to speak with on our trips is it's so consistent. It's something I think we should all recognize. And that's kind of what I call moving the goalposts, right?
Mm,
You get into real estate investing because you want 5,000 in cash flow. After
yeah,
7, 9, 12 years, you get
yeah,
there. And then it's not 5,000, it's 9,000, and then it's 12,000. Maybe it's just if you keep moving the goalposts, you're just always in it, right? And again, a lot of things I take away from these older conversations who are these individuals probably are worth 25 million, maybe 50
mhm,
million,
mhm,
but they're sitting at this table, not very mobile, not a concern in the world financially, but they really can enjoy it, right?
right,
We're going down this river in Germany and we're seeing all these cute little towns and they barely can get off the boat. And then they're off the boat for like 20 minutes before they got to go back on. And it's
mhm,
like, and they always tell me, they always, almost all of them said, I should have done this 10 years ago. I
yeah,
should, I should have done this 10 years ago.
yes,
That hurts. That
yeah, the
hurts when I feel
should've.
that.
I've
Yeah.
heard a lot more, the pain. I forget the saying, but you don't want to have the pains of regrets, like what you should have done, right? And so it's
Yeah.
kind of, and again, all this comes back to life by design. I'm like beating, the drum over and over and over again, but it's one of the reasons. Like, already this summer, I'm planning. We're going to Hawaii next summer. Like, my family's like, we just got back. We can plan this later. I'm like, it's
Ah.
happening. I've
There
already bought. I've already bought the Airbnb. I don't know exactly what day we're going, but we're going. And
you
you
go.
have to say what's important to me. You make it happen. You, and you're not promised tomorrow. And that's the other thing,
No.
to your point. Like, so many are blessed to be able to make it into their 80s, but how many don't, right? And we're not promised tomorrow. So, I
Amen.
was challenged to, I don't remember who challenged me to it a few years ago, write my obituary. And
Oh. Woo.
it was a
Yeah.
really somber exercise, but it really made me think, like, if I only had 1 or 2 years left to live, what do I hope that I've done? Who have I become? And what do I want to make sure that I put out in the world, right? And I went to a few funerals, unfortunately, of even good young friends of mine. I
Yeah. I
think I shared
remember.
a friend of mine passed away from high school,
Yeah.
and multiple people during COVID, and not a single one of them, Michael, at their funerals raved about all their accomplishments, how much money they had, all the things that they did. It was all about, how did that person make me feel? right?
Yeah.
Who was that person? And I think that that's how we can take time to make sure we don't have should haves in our life. This is who I want to be. This is what I want to do. Here's the impact I want to leave. Now let me make plans for that and let me take action and not just wish and hope that one day, not move the goalposts, but say,
Mhm.
what can I do this year, this month, this quarter to at least move the needle in those areas,
Yeah.
and get
Couldn't agree
further
more.
from away from the should haves. Yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. All right. Number three, I let fear control my decisions and didn't take risks.
Mm, that one's really interesting. That one's really interesting. I do often say, and I have to remind myself as well, never to make decisions based upon fear. So that
Mm.
means I'm not, but here's the thing about fear. This is why I was like, I have to really process this, right? And you just threw this at me. I didn't know what was going to come
Yep.
here. But I think fear is one of those things that it's innate within us. Like I think God put fear in us
Oh
to
yeah.
give us that
Survival.
warning
Yep.
of like, the lion is chasing me. I better run,
Yeah.
right? You can either freeze or you can fight, like fight or
Mhm.
flight, right? So fear is something that tells us there's a warning thing I need to be concerned about and think about, and then either fight or flee. Or fear can be something that is something you should run through because on the other side of it, you know that there's something really good. And so I think we need to develop a healthy sense of fear that warns us of what we shouldn't chase. Just sometimes we chase things because we're afraid if we don't, we might miss out, right? That shiny object syndrome. But yet, that thing is something we really shouldn't chase. And if we're chasing it and only saying yes because we're afraid, well, what if we don't? And then we don't make money, right? Then
Yeah.
that's chasing it for the wrong reasons because of what that fear of missing out, the FOMO isn't a good kind of fear, right?
Yeah.
But then on the other side of that, and this is probably more what they're saying, fear should not paralyze you and stop you from doing something that could really be good for you
Yeah.
on the other side. So we have to recognize, and I do this with all kinds of things and try to teach my kids this, like identify your fear. And especially if you're feeling it in your body, this is something we don't listen to enough. And you mentioned on our last video about your conference coming up, how you're going to have a thing on mindset. Like
Mhm.
when you feel fear and your tension, it's your body telling you, okay, stop and recognize what it is you're feeling. Like write down, what are you afraid of? And an exercise I do for big, hairy goals that kind of scare me, is I say, okay, what am I afraid of? And then I say, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I name it. I name what I'm afraid of. And if I write out, here's the worst thing that can happen, then I'm not afraid of it anymore. Then I can say, all right, if these things happen, what would I do about it? And then you realize I'm capable of solving a lot of things. And if I feel afraid or that I'm incapable, I go back and remind myself of
Mhm.
amazing things I've accomplished when I was afraid. And it gives me the confidence, and courage is not having no fear, but it's saying, I'm going to go through and I'm going to run into the fire, even when it's really scary, because I know that there's something good on the other side of that. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's a little bit helpful. But that's what I think about when I think about not doing things I'm afraid of. Like, don't let it hold you back, but also don't make really dumb decisions on
Yeah.
FOMO either.
Yeah. When I look at this statement, I let fear control my decisions, didn't take risks. It could be anything. It could be asking somebody on a date. It could be
Yeah.
changing careers. It could be
Yeah.
going to a college, going to a new town, moving, getting away from, I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many decisions over a life, which hopefully is a dozen decades, right? Let's hope we all live
Yeah.
120 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just these little decisions that sometime we kind of know intuitively we should take that chance, but again, that whole the lion is chasing us thing, we
Right.
just so many people are comfortable being comfortable. We
Yes.
don't sometimes take the other path, a lot of people regret not taking some of those risks. So, all right, number
Yeah.
4, I wish I'd been braver in the face of uncertainty or opportunity.
Yeah. That's kind of like, piggybacks on what we were just saying. I think we all have this innate, I don't know that it's innate, but I don't know a single soul that I've ever talked to that didn't have this, whether they'll admit it or not. But we have deep insecurities of, are we enough? Right? Every person struggles with, who am I? Am I enough? Am I worth it? Am I smart enough to handle this? Am I pretty enough to date him or whatever it is, right? And I think unfortunately so many of us struggle with that identity of knowing our worth and our value and having enough confidence in ourselves that we're not afraid to fail and to look bad to other people. We worry about what other people think. It's why some people have a very small ego and they're very insecure, and other people are maniacs. You know, a lot of successful people, Michael, they're narcissists,
Oh
right?
yeah, no question.
But behind that narcissism and that big armor of ego, there's really deep, deep insecurity there that makes them feel like I'm not enough unless it's not good enough that I have 100 doors. I got to be the next billionaire. And if I'm not, I feel like a failure. And so then they lose sight of so many of these other things in life because really they're trying to fuel their ego and their insecurities. And then on the other end, it's people that never take the risks at all because they're
Mm,
too afraid. And so this whole, if we could learn a lot younger, and I'm almost 50 now, so I'm like, I'm probably going through this middle age of thinking through lots of stuff, right? But it's like so many people by the time they reach 50, they're finally really confident in who they are. And
yeah.
they're not messing around anymore. They're not chasing stuff or not chasing stuff because they're afraid. But if we could just make people understand at a young age, like you are worth it and you're
Mhm.
valuable, and failure is not fatal. Like it's okay to fail. Everyone is going to fail at anything new, but take the baby step, fail small, take some action, be willing to fail and look at it not as I'm not good enough because I lost money on my first flip. Like I lost money on my first flip and I was like,
Mm.
let's do it again. Next time I'm going to lose less money, right? But we have to build that confidence in ourselves and value ourselves enough that we say, I'm going to take the chance on me because I'm worth it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, when I think about this one, I really key on the word uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because one, and again, I've only appreciated this as a superpower after the fact. I wish I knew it earlier. But
Yeah.
anytime I'm trying to go after something and I'm a little uncertain, I just get kind of laser focused. I clearly get unbalanced. I'm not a balanced guy. Like I am single threaded. Olivia will tell me that's my greatest strength and my greatest weakness.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, uncertainty for me is like that itch I have to scratch because
Yeah.
I hate uncertainty more than I hate fear, right?
Yeah.
Uncertainty is like that itch in the back of the head's like, oh God, I got to solve this. Like, it's like a math problem I can't solve.
Right.
Um, so I guess I'm lucky. I just dive in and I scratch the itch until I understand the math problem.
Yeah.
Um,
I think you're kind of a unicorn though, Michael. I think for most people, and I learned this in change management, right? Back when I worked at AIG, and we did some consulting and management consulting, is most most people's biggest fear is change and
oh
uncertainty. It paralyzes them for most people. And that's like
yeah.
across the corporate world. And so that's why it's so hard. If you say we're going to introduce tech or AI, everyone's afraid they're losing their job. And
Mm,
they don't want to help with the project because they're afraid it's going to put them, it's going to get them fired. It's going to replace them. So
right.
instead of saying, oh, this is something that's coming, how could I be on the front edge of this and be
Absolutely.
valuable when we move toward AI? But most people are paralyzed by uncertainty
Yeah.
and change, and they're in that like freeze mode, that fight or flight, like they're just fighting it and they're freezing and they're afraid of the change and uncertainty, so they never take the action to figure it out. And I
Mm.
think they miss out on on a tremendous amount of things because of that fear.
Yeah. I've never been so happy to be called a unicorn, and you're absolutely right. I've One of the reasons I was able to grow 3 products from 0 to 100 million is I just never I was always just thirsty to keep trying, and I didn't like
Yeah.
being uncertain. So yeah,
And
I'm
honestly, all of us that are successful in some way have to have enough of that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have tried. Like we
yeah,
all take risks. We all do things we're afraid of that we're not sure about. But you've got to have that determination that says, I'm worth it and I've got nothing to lose. I'm going for it, you know?
yeah. Well, number 5, this is the one that I kind of I don't know that I saw myself in number 5. If I did, I saw it differently, but I'll read it as written. I focused too much on the future and lost touch with the present. Let me
Mm,
kind of tell you what I thought about this one because this is the one maybe I just don't get. how I read this one is a lot of people are, they have these big goals and these goalposts and, these big visions for all of this. And they kind of see all that stuff. As I just mentioned earlier, I don't live there. I am horrible at 1 year, 5 year, 10-year goals. My mind doesn't go there. It just seems all wishy washy and just, it's just, I am not comfortable living in the future. I
Yeah.
live right now. So this one kind of felt weird for me. Again, I'll read it for you. I focused too much on the future and lost touch with the present.
Yeah. I think that's true for a lot of people. And these things, they're saying them different ways, but they're all kind of saying the same thing, Michael. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the future. I'm worried about the future, whether it's what I can control or whether it's what I can't. And so my time and energy and mind space is on the future. And therefore, I'm really not doing the things in the moment that are important to me to find joy, to show love to people, to take care of myself in ways that I should. Everybody kind of has this this someday, when I have more money, when I have the spouse, when I have the kids, when I retire, then I can be happy. Then I can be fulfilled. Then I will have enough. Instead of saying, what can I do today that's going to help me be happier, healthy, more fulfilled, and have a life of purpose today? And I think, you know, going back to the corporate world again, we have visionaries and we have integrators, right? If you look at that philosophy, and so some people are definitely live in the more visionary future space, but they're really bad at executing the day-to-day minutia to get there. And other people are not great at looking ahead, like you said, but you're an integrator, like you're going to make it happen. You're going to do the tasks to get it done. Both can be successful, but oftentimes it's those that have enough vision for the future that they can also do the day to day that are really successful over time. So we have to kind of pull on the parts that we're uncomfortable with a little bit and then dive deep where we're really good. And so for you, like you say, I'm not a visionary, but like when we started this show and doing interviews, you were thinking about, okay, I'm going to do a book. I want to start a community. Like you have enough vision to say, here's something I want. Now reverse engineer it and do the day to day. Some people do so much of the day to day that they don't have vision. And
Mm,
there's a proverb, I think it says, like, without vision, the people perish, right? So you got to have both. And you've got to constantly be thinking about, like, what can I do today to be really happy and fulfilled? And then the way I think of it is, how can I now invest in my future in some way? My future relationships, my future health, my future financials, whatever, and then dig really deep to do it today and live fully present. So I think that's part of it, maybe.
yeah.
But I think also being fully present is really hard for a lot of us. And I'll tattle on myself when this really hit me, having kids and being a mom, like I always try to be fully present. And I always have my kids with us. We've talked about this on the show, like even when it was painting apartments in the middle of the night, like they're with us, but they weren't enjoying the being with us. And we weren't
Right.
enjoying them, even though we were with them because we were distracted. And I was sitting here watching a movie one night with my daughter, and it was like the fifth or sixth time, I kid you not, that we watched the same show. And as a parent, like there's only so many times I can watch Frozen or, whatever the show is, Shrek.
Yeah,
Like
for
I've
me, it was
seen them so
Barney.
many
Barney. Oh my
like,
gosh.
you've seen him so many times. So it's like, okay, we have movie night. My little girl's sitting on my lap and I'm watching it with her. She's snuggled with me. I have my arm around her, but I'm on my phone and I'm, doing whatever. I was probably looking at something work related because I'm like, I'm with her. She's enjoying it. And I'm going to fill my mind with something else so I don't wake up in the middle of the night singing all the Frozen Let It Go songs in the middle of my sleep because that's the struggle is real, right? But she said, Mommy, you don't spend time with me. I'm like, baby, I'm sitting here with you right now watching a movie.
Mm,
And she said, you're with me, but you're not with me. You're watching,
ooh.
you're looking at your phone. You're not watching it with me. And my perspective is I was with her and I'm handling stuff. I'm being a good steward of my time and I'm hugging her so she feels loved. But she didn't. She felt like I
Mm.
wasn't really fully with her because I was distracted by work. So I put my phone down and I'm like, okay. And I still catch myself. I'm not perfect at this. I still am human. And there's times I want to pull out that phone while we're watching a show again. But I try to be more cognizant of being fully present in the relationships. Like I tell my kids, put the phones down while we're having lunch at Sunday. And of course, sometimes we need to grab it, but it's like I'm really cognizant of trying to force that. Like we need to be okay with not being distracted or multitasking all the time. And if we really care about our relationships and our well being, right? And our peace, we need to put stuff down and be fully present and fully engaged with the people that we're with and in the one thing we're doing at a time. And that's
Yeah.
hard for multitaskers.
I love it, folks. Again, these top 5 regrets, folks on their deathbed, don't have them, understand them, figure out what you're doing with them. Anna, where can people find you?
You can find me on your show almost every week. You can find me on social media at Anna Kelly, REI Mom. And for coaching, consulting, and investing for accredited investors, you can find me at AnnaKellyInvesting.com.
Thank you so much.